Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Yay! Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is your brother Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. After a very, very successful and productive tour overseas, shout out to all the cities: Blackburn, Glasgow, Leicester, Bolton, Glasgow, Birmingham, Manchester, East London, Wembley, Bradford. Just shout out to all these places, man. Great audiences, really great. And they send love back to the Shout Out Show. I want all of you to know. And I want to apologize. People, I worked to the best of my ability to pre-record some of those shows. We had some audio problems. I have been having some issues on my platform. I'm trying to get them worked out. Please be patient with me. And I also want to give a shout out to sisters, 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 shout out. All right, Sister Tana, we okay, cool. All right, so here's the deal. None of my microphones work on my other microphones. So let me go back. First of all, I want to give a shout out to everybody. I'm very happy to be back. And much love to the loyalty of the Shout Out Show family, checking out some of the reruns, people sending notes. Listen, I want to say this. I went over to the UK and I didn't really want to go. Just be honest. I didn't really want to go. I wasn't feeling it. I had all kinds of emotions. You guys know I lost my pops. This was the first tour I've ever been on where I couldn't call my pops after a show. So I was feeling some kind of way, because that's my dude. That's my homeboy. Of course, that's my father. But I went over there, and you know what I found, folks? I found the get up and do your darn job gene that parents talk to us about all the time. They tell you that things in life are going to happen. And this happened, and I felt like having that, it just gave me a little extra drive. I had a little grit in my teeth, my eyebrows were furrowed. Because I'm like, I'm finna give this audience the business. And I gave all 10 audiences, all 10 cities, the business on our behalf. And I thought it was really important that as I was the only African-American and I was closing, that we had to represent. And so moving forward, I think when we do the Shout Out Show, or whatever show I'm doing, whatever production you're going to have, listen, I believe, brothers and sisters, that we got to go out here and we got to get folks to business. People have been sleeping on us for years. So like I said before, the audio issues were discovered. Shout out to Bolton. Shout out to Leicester. Shout out to Blackburn. Shout out to Glasgow. Shout out to Manchester, Wembley, East London, Bradford, Birmingham, and Derby. All those cities were great, and the people came out, and we represented. So I want to give a shout out to all of them. Okay, that's number one. What I didn't get to say was thank you, Shout Out Show family, for checking in on me, for sending notes. I want to give a definite shout out to our executive producer, Sister Tana Whitfield, who kept this thing going, even though I was having technical problems. So what I think I'm going to do is replace equipment. This microphone is not doing what it needs to do. This camera works, but the microphone in the camera does not work, Satana. So I believe I have to upgrade my equipment. I'll be more happy to do so. So let me tell you all about how I got over to the UK. When I got over to the UK, they had a prime minister and prime minister trust. Prime minister trust lasted 6 weeks as the prime minister of the UK. Her tenure was the shortest ever tenure of any prime minister in the history of the United Kingdom. Her tenure, people, was shorter than my COVID test. I mean, my COVID test was longer than her tenure. But I want you to dig this. Coming back overseas, When you walk around and you take the tenor of a situation, people were scared in the UK. And they were asking me about, what are you guys thinking about in the United States? They have a political situation that reeks of a lot of social upheaval and disruption. They are going into legitimately a very, very difficult period where they're dealing with recession. Home prices are dropping, the ability to buy homes, the rates are high. We're dealing with that right here. And they're literally having campaigns to address the fact that children will go hungry this winter here in the UK. Then I get off the plane, and it's funny, you watch a lot of information from overseas, and they start talking about US politics. I call it US Politricks. So our subject today will be Politricks. What does it mean for you and me? It means that I misspelled it in an overlay, but I forgot a word, Satan. You got to spell check me. We're gonna talk about the day, and I'm gonna give you guys some information, some insight. Maybe we can figure out how we can get ourselves better prepared for what's coming down the road. Okay, I am glad to be back, and I'm glad to say I'm back. I'm in my own home, and I'm even bad to say, but I'm really more happy to say, hey, this is ShOUT Show. We'll be right back. And we're back. I am happy to run down the list of the ShOUT Show family live. I haven't been able to do it live, so let me get to it. Much appreciated. Shout out to Sister Ree. How you doing, Sister Ree? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace and blessings to you and your family, Derek and Jawad. Thank you so much for holding us down while I was overseas. Shout out Brother Eric Carter. Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Big E, Big Eric. Thank you so much, man. Good to see you in the place. Also, shout out to our Canadian envoy, Brother Altaf Rashid, better known as Mr. 6 o'clock. Straight up, straight down. He's got some jokes for you guys already. Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To you, beloved, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate you. Next up, got Sister Ika tuning in from Melbourne. Her and her family in Melbourne. Alhamdulillah. Wa alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Altaf said, gone so long and not a hint of accent. I don't have a hint of accent, but I need to be detoxed from that fried chicken that they have over there. I'm here to tell you, I don't even really eat fried chicken here. I really don't. It might be a thing once a year. I might get, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 pieces of fried chicken in a year over here. Over there, they have chicken shops. I don't know what it is about how they make the chicken, or maybe the fact that the chicken is fresher. It's not. I don't know what it is. All I know is I have a fried chicken problem when I go to the UK. And after the show, a shout out to Harris. Harris was our driver. Harris understood my addiction. And after the show, after we dropped people off at the hotel, we would quietly go sneaking about the streets of London and Blackburn and Birmingham and Glasgow, looking for people who were very unhealthy, but yet cook the most delectable chicken. There you go. And of course, we're gonna give a shout out. This is Satana wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh. She says, welcome to this side of the pond. Yeah, man. I'm gonna say this, man. I was over there in the UK, and I know there's a pond between us, but I'm gonna tell you, it's getting closer and closer and closer. I'm gonna give a shout out to my little brother. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh. Johnny L. Thomas, better known as JT. We had some good conversations on FaceTime. Good to see y'all. And of course, we have Esquire Maxine BK. Welcome back, Preacher Moss. Oh, I appreciate it. Much love. You know, when your aunt says those nice things, I don't care how you feel. You feel better. All right. So thank you so much, Maxine, and my mom. She had cataract surgery, and the last time I was here, I sang every song I knew that had the word "I" in it, and I'm gonna do it again. I can't go for that. No, okay, there you go. Sultana's like, that's wrong. It's funny though. So let's get to this whole thing. Politricks. Two conversations that I had. One that I listened to, and Satana and I were talking to this before we came on air. One of them was a conversation that an Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was talking about in terms of anti-Semitism. And he said, in a way, I'm bastardized a little bit, but he said one of the aspects of anti-Semitism is that in this space of, in some ways, contrived victimhood, because of course you have anti-Semitism, that's not an issue. But there are those who use the platform of anti-Semitism as a way to gain power. He said something I thought was amazing. He said the scope of some aspects of anti-Semitism for some people is that it frames the nature for some people to believe that they're above folks and in that position have the right to make decisions on their behalf. And naturally, the decisions are bad decisions being made on our behalf. Hear me now. They're making bad decisions on their behalf because they have access or they have power, resources. But it's also the fact that to make a decision to the best interest of the people that you may be engaging in exploiting in some regard, to make a decision in the best interest of those people, it brings about the fear of parity. And it kept ringing in my ear. And I was driving. I'm in an Uber riding to lunch with my friend Sajid. And one of our other people here on the Shout Out Show, Mark Canada, called me up. And we got into this big, long-ranging discussion about the midterms. And I said, Mark, I don't really deal with politics. He said, you mean you don't deal with politics? I said, no, I understand politics. I said, but I don't deal with politics. You know, here's the deal. And I told Mark this, and maybe you guys can respond. We've been watching this midterm coming down the road. It's been unraveling for us since 2019. This is not a position whereby we can say, oh my gosh, what happened? We've watched it. We've watched federal judges make decisions. We've watched people become election deniers and now stand on the precipice of becoming actual U.S. representatives in a lot of cases, in some cases becoming senators. That the lie is told so much that it becomes the truth, which is almost the frame of anti-Semitism, except for it's not attached to a religious ideology or creedal understanding of anything. And so over and over and over, and I told Mark this, I said, he asked me about the midterms. I said, it's going to be a bloodbath for the Democrats. It's a bloodbath for the Democrats. I'm going to tell you why. It's the concept of the bully. Now, this may sound bad or aggressive, but the concept of the bully in real life is more like the concept of David versus Goliath. Let me explain. I'm out with one of my friends one time, and basically, we hung out. He was going on, and some guys jumped him. They beat him up. Now he knew the guys that beat him up. He bangs on my door, bang, 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 bang. I'm like, what's up? He goes, man, I'm gonna go get him. We're gonna go get him back. And we were gonna get. They beat you up. They ain't beat me up, He's like, no, you don't. And I explained to him something, and this is really old school. I said, if you're gonna go beat this person up, let me ask you a question. He said, what? I said, how far are you willing to take them to death? He said, I don't understand. I said, the principle of a bully is not you bully the bully. You have to eliminate the bully or some way disable or discombobulate the bully so they're not able to function as they had before. He said, what do you mean? I said, listen, if you go and beat up the bully, you catch the bully by all he's going to do, if you haven't seriously injured him, he's just going to bring people to you. And I said, it'll be a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this is what we have with the GOP over here and the Democrats. One's a killer and one's a murderer. One's a killer and one's a murderer. In terms of the whole scope of black existence and black right to life, the black right to happiness and truth, the Native American right to life, the Native American life to right to existing and expressing. This is where we are right now. And what happens over and over and over again is you're now going to see people stepping out of their lane, speaking this way, because this will be the tone of the country. My forecast is, if he lasts another 3 months, I don't know. But the way Kanye West talks now will be general conversation, common conversation, verbiage after the midterms. Because after the midterms, you're going to have a consolidation of people who are going to make it okay to do this. I'm not saying that it's counterfactual in terms of laws and constitution, but I've been telling people for years. In fact, since we start the show, don't invest or don't put all your hopes and eggs in one basket in regards to the Constitution. These people cannot handle, they can't even express themselves in the Constitution. Listen, and this is the argument I had with Mark. Follow me. Mark and I were talking about this election. I said, Mark, how ironic is it that you're going to have an election before Donald Trump is held accountable legally, criminally by the January, what is it, January 6th commission? And he said, well, there's process and laws. I said, but he's flouted every process in law. I don't have a pen, brothers and sisters, but if I drop it, you won't hear anything about, you haven't heard anything about the Mar-a-Lago investigation, now have you? There you go. I don't have a pen, Satana, but you're not hearing about that. And here's the deal about January 6th. And I want everybody to remember this. And it's not racist. These are just facts. Since the Civil War, white people have not had to deal with white people being the culture, the framework, and the source for civil unrest. We are the brunt of that. Black people, in terms of democracy, for us to figure it out, we figure it out for ourselves, but then we have to figure it out for everybody else. To talk about democracy for ourselves, we have to talk to everyone else who's not talking about democracy and hope that they pick up on our conversation. That we can't go to the White House, that we can't go to the Supreme Court. We have to find people with like-minded ideas, scenarios, and narratives who will pack on whatever they want to and represent us without doing the heavy lifting. Without doing the heavy lifting. And over and over again, I've had to say this, and you guys know, listen, in your mind, you can't do it physically, but in your mind, tear up the Constitution. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. The framework, this is how I know it didn't work. You ready for me? You still had a civil war. You still had a civil war. Am I saying that white folks are barbaric? I'm saying some white folks are barbaric, and some of those white folks who are barbaric are now going against white folks who are not only not barbaric, but they don't know how to handle people who are barbaric. And so the only recourse is the law that has only been effective in holding us down, holding down the Native Americans, holding down Latinos, holding down the Black, holding down the poor. This is what we are right now. We are a country of failed laws, failed leaders that benefit from failed laws. And at this point, you have an election that's legitimately a farce. People, you can't have a race. We say before you say go, there are people who are 50 yards ahead of other people. It's not a fair race. They're now putting out this thing, oh, the Democrats need the black vote. Let me tell y'all something. And this might be dog ugly. Let me tell y'all something. People don't want the black vote. They don't. You don't want the black vote because you've been fearing the black vote for years. if you say, hey, the Latinos are leaning towards the GOP, because what are their issues? Immigration. There's still a Mexico. There's still a Tijuana. There's still a Cabo San Lucas. There's still the Monterey. There's still a Mexico to go back to. What are black people's issues? Rights, humanitarian, just being people being humanity, just being fair to us, equity. These are things that are larger issues. Black folk ain't arguing about immigration. We ain't arguing about transgender issues. We're not arguing about nothing. That now that you have these positions that have been strategically thrown out there, you can look at all of them and nothing have to do about the uplift, at least even the respect of black existence. We'll be right back. This is Preacher Moss on the ShOUT Show. Glad to be back. Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just got to hear don't get the COVID.
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe, and your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now's the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
All right, we're back. Before we get back into the subject, I want to give a shout out to a couple people. I want to give a shout out to Yusuf Razak from Penny Appeal. I also want to give a shout out to my main man, Pedro Cavallo, who is the PR guy. He's a PR guy for ethnic PR, but here's the deal. He's like my dear friend. This brother came and hung out with me and took me around, and we just he did 2 shows, the Wembley show, the East London show, and we were kind of both going through the loss of our parents. He lost his mother, may Allah be pleased with him, earlier this year, and just hung out with a brother, kicked it with a brother. I mean, he's like, forget my best friend, one of my best friends in the UK. He's just top flight brother all the way around. Shout out to the Varder family. Mama Varder, please feel better. Please send some duas to Ilford, Ramsgill Street, Ilford, UK, just so she feels better. I got to hang out with her. Whenever I would go to the UK, I would stay with the Varder family, and she wasn't feeling well, and I got a chance to just repay her, show that I understand the value of our elders, and just go sit with her and have a nice time. Also, I want to give a shout out to my main man, Iftikhar Awan, who's in Manchester. This brother put me up in his bungalow. It was all fly and tricked out. It gave me a break away from the road a little bit, and I got to work on scripts and things like that. And he gave me this really fly book. It's called An Alchemy of Letters. It's really a breakdown of all the designs in Arabic letters. Really amazing. This guy is a top flight calligraphist. His name is Ahmed Mustafa, and they break down all these different looks. The guy's like a PhD. I mean, I know you can't see that, but amazing stuff. And also, this is from People of the Desert, Tenorican. This is like, I don't want to say Bedouin music. It's not that, but it's very spiritual, very spiritual. And it's fun to listen to music that carries history. So I want to give all of them a shot. I also want to give a shout to Sister Nazira, who also works at PR. And shout out to all the BBC people who were so nice with interviews. Shout out to all the comedians. Abdullah, shout out to Muksin, shout out to Farhan Solo, shout out to my little sister, Fakita, I'm sorry, my little sister. I've got her name all messed up because I'm tired. Also, shout out to my little brother Azim Muhammad. We did the first 5 shows together. We haven't actually toured together like that since 2005. And so it's just great to kind of just be in this space. So let me get back to what I was saying while we have a couple minutes left. Listen, this upcoming midterm will be a mandate on failed politics. Rarely do you get the chance, or rarely do you don't want a chance, but rarely do you vote on failed politics. And it will be the replacing of failed policy with failed policy, failed leader with even a bigger failed leader, because the process in and of itself has not been corrected. Readily, we have people who are running to positions, hoping to hold on to them, and think that the way that they stay in power is that it becomes a status quo. We will get tired. I am telling folks right now, revolt. When I say revolt, I mean revolt different ways. The political system doesn't work the way you want to, but if you can revolt in the context of building your wealth, if you can revolt in the context of inspiring and educating your family on a process that doesn't work, then what you have is people who are aware going into a situation that there has to be another model. And creating a culture of that was almost resembles the blacks that came out of the fields after slavery, who, in my estimation, are some of the most intelligent, hear me now, some of the most intelligent people that we never give credit to. That start from nothing, that you think, that start from nothing. What they started from was they looked at a bad model and organically created a new model. I don't know if you ever read Frantz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, but he talked about the Africans in the Congo and how the Dutch and the Belgium, they came in, they colonized all these people. And what happened was, when they got kicked out, they didn't just leave. They took all the resources of these people, the resources, the money that they had made them assimilate to certain things, clothing, things. And so while they left, the people who revolted in this revolution woke up and go, there's no one to give us jobs. You know, I don't remember our language or the banking system. We don't have a currency. That's our thing, brothers and sisters. We can't wake up to that. We have to have these things established for organically. And it's been expressed to me by my mentors over a number of years that you have 2 things going on. There's going to be capacity, and then there's going to be capitulation. You can either have capacity or you can have capitulation. Capitulation looks like something that's called false ego ideal. And Fanon talks about this because in the absence of a brutal system or bad model or corrupt functionality, given the opportunity to come up with something new, guess what the people who colonized it, they literally came up with the same system and asked the people to come back, colonize them. Hey, we need you, do it again. And this is nothing to be joking about, because this literally is what we're looking here in the United States. That's what this is an absolute, I want to say, perfect model of colonization, white people colonizing other white people. Oh, did I get that right, Satana? This is white people colonizing other white people. And if you're black, Latino, poor, Native American, whatever, we have to sit here and watch this debacle. We have to sit here and believe that our votes are going to matter. No. If the law doesn't matter, the votes don't matter. That's Shout Out Show. Glad to be back. Coming to you live tomorrow from Orlando. Take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Preacher Moss.